Welcome to Taking It to the Nub. This is season 2, episode 11, and tonight we have a really big show. I'll steal that from a great talk show host from years ago. We're going to have Bobby Newman, who is the owner and executive vice president of J.C. Newman Cigar Company. And like I said earlier today, there's a lot of history here. We're going to unpackage a lot of this and talk about what's old, what's new, and what's coming from J.C. Newman. So let me bring in Bobby Newman. Hello, Bobby.
Hey, Boston Jimmie.
Hey. Sorry for the delay. We had some little technical difficulties on both our sides. I had problems. Bobby had problems, but the ones and zeros are working now.
Amen. And I apologize to everyone who's to you, Jimmie, Boston Jimmie. Do you want me to call you Jimmie or Boston Jimmie? What is your preference?
You call me Jimmie. My mother called me Jimmie.
Does your wife call you Boston Jimmie?
No.
Yeah, I'm just okay.
She has other names depending on what the time of the day is or what I did wrong.
Well, you met my wife, and she calls me "Get over here." So.
There you go. Right on. So we're live. We're going good right now. What we'll do tonight is we'll be going through a lot of history. First of all, what are you smoking tonight?
Smoking. You won't believe this. I'm smoking a Diamond Crown Julius Caesar, which the Robusto got like a 95 rating. It was one of our highest rated cigars ever. And to picture Grandpa. There's Grandpa JC.
There he is.
And this is what he looked like in May of 1895 when he started his business, which in our business. And he's a 20-year-old.
Your new Perla de Mar Corojo.
Oh, great. Wonder.
I love this cigar.
Well, thank you. Jimmie just got a 90 rating in Cigar Aficionado. Because we advertise. It had been since day one. We've got the advanced copy, and it's outstanding. And and for all the golfers, because many people who smoke cigars play golf, and Dustin Johnson is on the cover with his drop dead gorgeous wife, who is Wayne Gretzky's daughter. And there's a picture in the article of Wayne Gretzky smoking a cigar with his son-in-law, and it's just very cool. And obviously, being in Tampa with the Tampa Bay Lightning, we won the Stanley Cup, and by the way, we won the Super Bowl. Yes. And by the way,
yes, believe me, I follow Tom Brady. I do not follow the teams, and I'm so happy that he did what he did with the Bucks.
Well, he's our first. I have not met him yet, but. He's a first-class guy. Everybody in Tampa, the teammates, some of the guys we know, they just say he's like you, Jimmie, or me, or listeners, and he goes to bed at 8:30 every night. That's why he looks like he's 43, but he looks like he's 23.
He just signed a contract for 2 more years.
That's right. Yeah.
He'll go beyond 45 if he can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's one of those great things. So
speaking of great things, J.C. Newman, like you just said, back in 1895, your grandfather, Julius, he came from very humble means. It was a Hungarian, right?
Right.
Came over to the United States about 14 years old. And if you haven't read this yet, if you go to the J.C. Newman site and you go through the history section, there is an autobiography. Now, I'm going to take you back a little because I spent the last 3 days reading the autobiography of your grandfather. So I know a lot about your grandfather now. And what he did. And there are some things in there that I like to unpackage a little with you. And for the folks that don't know, back in 1895, there were 40,000 federally licensed cigar manufacturers in the United States. Imagine that, 40,000. And today, J.C. Newman is the only one that's still owned and operated by the founding family. To talk just a little bit about what that means to you as a third generation tobacco man.
Well, obviously we're very proud of it. But the reason why we know there are 40,000 cigar manufacturers that had a federal registration, had a federal license, and people say, well, how do you know that? Well, Abraham Lincoln, 1863, the Union was going broke fighting the South. So Abraham Lincoln, and not many people know this, but he was the first American president to put an excise tax on cigars. At the time, 80% of American males smoked cigars. So he's thinking, let's put a tax on something because we got to get out of this hole. I wish people in Washington felt the same way today, but they don't, obviously. But it was Jimmie, it was 1 penny, 1 cent for every box of 50. And back then, many of the boxes were 100, 150, 200 cigars. So you had to go to the post office, and if it's a box of 50, you had to buy from the U.S. Post. You had to buy these tax stamps. You can buy them on eBay now. You can buy these old cigar boxes with federal tax stamps. So he came. And Grandpa G, it's fun. And Eric and I, my brother and I, remember him very well. I don't want to get you and I, Jimmie, you and I are. We can probably talk for 10 hours, so I don't want to talk too much. But anyway, when he started, he was born in Hungary in 1875. If you can imagine, you and the people that are on the show tonight, listening or watching, that if you can, Grandpa JC was born 10 years after the American Civil War was over, and because he got married in his 30s, my father got married in his 30s, I got married in the 40s, so we're missing generations there, and that's why I remember him. We used to go, my brother and I Eric used to go to his house every Sunday, a grandparents' house in Tampa, and have Sunday dinner there, and so we just found, the last few years. He died in 1958 in his office in our factory, which is now our main conference room. But there wasn't the technology. Obviously, I know you're a technology an expert, but one of my cousins who since died found a recording of him. So when you come to see us, Jimmie, and I hope everyone is listening and watching this will come to see us in Tampa, see our factory. We have a theater now, an interactive theater, and with 2 screens, and really cool. And you can hear him. He had a very thick Hungarian accent. He spoke Hungarian and German, and it has subtitles on it. And it was made the recording was made about 6 months before he died. So anyway, it's really cool.
And I will be over there as soon as I get the vaccine. I will be get back out on the road, and that's one of my first stops for sure. Now your grandfather Julius, in the autobiography, there's a couple of things I'd like to talk to in this, but at the end of the book, he talks about he had just a few rules to remember in building a business, right? And
right.
One, he said, establish a personal relationship with your employees.
Right.
2,
right.
Establish a definite preliminary plan for marketing your product. And 3, start at once to build a credit rating.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yes.
And he did this back in the days when, he went to bankers and stuff to get money. Nobody wanted to lend him money. He started his whole business in his house that he
in the
lived
barn,
in.
yeah, in the barn, yeah, yes.
And then moved it inside, and then your great grandmother or something complained about the smell of the tobacco.
Right, they got into the canned vegetables and fruits, yeah. and she kicked him out, and he had to find a place in downtown Cleveland. And these people, we talk about the greatest generation. My father, I'm sure your father, my dad was in World War II. He's a mechanic on a B-24 Liberator. And these people, when they came back from World War II, they never talked about their experiences. And and unfortunately, we're losing about 10,000 of these people a day. And but they talk about the greatest generation. I think the generation, Jimmie, probably your great grandfather, perhaps, but the men and women from the 1870s, 1880s that came, everybody, unless you're Native American, we all came from overseas somewhere. And you can imagine coming here, and most people came, like Grandpa JC. He came with his 4 brothers and 2 sisters. No one spoke English. They only spoke Hungarian and German. They ended up in Cleveland, Ohio, which is a large Hungarian enclave. We don't know why, but all the good paying jobs were in the north back in the 1880s, because in the south was a very agriculture, I guess they call it agrarian society, raising tobacco and cotton. Those were the two main cash crops, if you will. And the good paying jobs were up in the north. And so he settled in Cleveland, Ohio, and at his mother paid $3 a month for him to learn to be a cigar maker. We don't know why. His 4 brothers all became tailors. He wanted to become a cigar maker, and maybe because he saw so many people smoking. I mean, all the males were smoking cigars, but he was very good with his hands. He had no education, and but as you know, Jimmie and I talked about before we got on about his children, how success, his son and his daughter, how successful they are, and they've got a great education. But these people who came over with no education, and he went to work at the age of 13, and he took courses. He took speaking courses. He took finance courses, accounting courses. He's basically self-taught. And I think that is a very special generation as well.
And the fact that he did all of that, and where he took this company. His company went through its own ebbs and flows of the depressions. There was all these issues that we had in this country: World War I, World War II. All of these things played into the company, and he was able to not only build a cigar company, but he was also very active, like you are now and your brother, in the politics of the business. He actually went to, if I understand the passage correctly, he actually went up to Capitol Hill to fight about an issue where Connecticut was growing the Connecticut shade, and everybody wanted it. But because there were these really big guys, they didn't produce as much. So only the big guys got it, and the little guys couldn't. You were squeezing little guys out of the business. And he went and fought that and won.
And the reason he was successful, Warren Harding was from Ohio. He was the president of the United States, a one-termer. And Warren Harding came to see when he was before he became a U.S. Senator in Ohio. He came to see my Grandpa JC, as we called him, Julius Caesar Newman, and he was trying to convince him to build a factory outside of Cleveland, because he was trying to help people get jobs. And Grandpa JC built this factory, and Warren Harding then became senator. My father Grandpa JC kept in touch with him, became president. So Grandpa JC went to the White House to see him. And I think it's in the book too, that Grandpa JC, he was so appreciative to be in the White House. He said, this is not my house. This is your house. It belongs to the people of the United States. And I wish people up in Washington were a little more like that, like we all do. But anyway, I was thinking about Grandpa G. I live in Tampa, and you're in Melbourne. You're a couple, 3-4 hours away. Teddy Roosevelt, Tampa is famous for many things. In 1898, the United States said, look, we're going to go down and help the Cuban people. Cuba was run by Spain. The whole country was controlled by Spain, and they were revolting. The Cubans wanted to get rid of the Spaniards for 50 years. So Teddy Roosevelt started. He had a volunteer. It's called the first an Army regiment, and called Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders, and he assembled these men, these volunteers in San Antonio, Texas. They all came to Tampa for 6 months. And when you come to see us, Jimmie, I'll take you by. It's now where the University of Tampa is. And it was an old hotel built in the 1880s. And Teddy Roosevelt trained his troops there. And it was a very short war. It was a 3-month war. Most of the men who died of yellow fever. Remember, Dr. Walter Reed figured out it was the mosquito that caused the yellow fever, and they were able to finally get a vaccine years later. But it's in one of the chapters in Grandpa JC's book. Anyone, if you go on jcnewman.com, you can look at his book called it's called Smoke Dreams, and you can look at our father Stanford's book called Cigar Family. And but Grandpa JC, if you can imagine, he was in 1898. He was 28 years old, and he's 23 years old, born 1875. He wrote to this young assistant secretary of the Navy up in New York named Theodore Roosevelt, who was forming this volunteer regiment. Grandpa JC, he was so appreciative. I hope you caught that, to be an American. And he talks about when he came, he landed in Baltimore in 1885, and he was so impressed he said he knows how thin all the Americans were. I guess where he came from, everyone, they eat potato. They probably ate too many carbohydrates and hungry, but he was willing to give the whole thing. He was so appreciative of being an American and being free and the opportunity. He came from Hungary. The family could not own land. They had the reason that Grandpa JC's mother and father fled Hungary was because all the emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the emperor was, or the prime, whatever they called him at the time, the prime minister, the emperor, he was taking all the 13-year-old males, all of them, and put them in the army, and the casualty rate was like 90%. So our great grandmother said, "Hey, we're leaving. We're out of here. We're going to America."
Good for her.
Yeah, and that's why my brother Eric and I and my nephew Drew and my children are here because of that.
Absolutely. And one of the other things, I don't want to belabor too much on the history, but there were two other things that I found very fascinating in the book, because he was innovative in a lot of ways. But one of the things he was innovative about was he created the first denicotized cigar called Nicotine.
Right. Yeah. Can you imagine that?
He worked with university professors, PhDs, and they did this, which was surprising. But that took him, the more surprising part of that passage in the book, and I'll have you talk a little bit about it if you can. He went down to Cuba because Cuba created one, a similar thing, and he went down there, and I think their brand was called Sano. And
Sano, Sano, right, correct.
And he went down to Cuba, and one of the things he noticed was they didn't know they weren't fermenting tobacco correctly. And your grandfather actually explain to the Cubans who've been working with tobacco for hundreds of years that you got to put more water on it. You got to rotate the pylons.
Right,
I,
right.
so if I understand that passage correctly, your grandfather taught the world how to ferment tobacco properly.
Well, I don't know about the world, but he taught the Cubans how to do it. And you're right, he was very, very innovative. You know, people, Grandpa JC, and we're very proud of this too. Not many people know this, but his company, our company, was the first cigar company to use cellophane on cigars, and a peanut manufacturer, because peanuts, even back in the last turn of the century, peanuts were in this plastic, and they still sell peanuts. It's like a cloudy plastic if you go to a baseball game or whatever. But a peanut manufacturer who made a peanut manufacturer, or the manufacturer that made it was like a paper type wax paper. I went to see my grandfather and said, "Look, I can make the same product that whole peanuts. Will make it clear." And Grandpa JC said, "That's not a bad idea, because cigars, if they're not humidified, as you know, everyone knows on this call, if you put a cigar on your desk with no cellophane on it, within 2 days, it gets 3 days, it starts to get very, very dry. And when it gets dry, all the essential oils leave and the flavor goes out." So he was a tough guy. Let me tell you that at the age of 78, this was back in the early 50s, he knew that for us to survive, that we had to move to the Napa Valley of the cigar industry, which was Tampa, Florida. At the time, there were 10 large factories and a lot of smaller ones. But the 10 large ones were making 500 million cigars a year by hand, and by these old type hand-operated machines using Cuban wrapper, binder, filler. And Tampa, it's the same thing. Tampa at the time, the industry started in 1886 by Martinez Ebor, who brought it up from Key West. But if Boston Jimmie and I were going to say, all right, we're going to get in the wine business, I'd suggest we go to Sonoma or Napa Valley. So Tampa was the cigar capital of the world. If it was as important as cars, automobiles used to be to Detroit, or it probably still is to Detroit. And so he came at the age of 78, and most people are either retired or dead, especially back in the early 50s. And my father and mother didn't want to go. My father said, I will agree to go I'll move to Tampa. I'll move my family to Tampa only if I can hire all of the workers. And my grandfather was like 5'3". You should see his pictures with his wife was 2 inches taller than him. And he's like had a Napoleonic complex, and he had a very rough side about him. And my father was concerned. We were highly unionized in Cleveland, and unions had a place, and especially when they're back in the 1890s, when they had 10-year-olds working in the sweatshops in the north. So Dad hired he hired all women shrimp peelers. There's a place in 20 miles east of Tampa called Dover, Florida. And very few people remember this, but the Gulf of Mexico used to be a huge industry. And then, of course, China came in, and that was the end of that. But so Dad hired, they were paying these women shrimp peelers $20 a week. So Dad, he said, I want to start these people at $30 a week, which will obviously 50% more. I'm going to teach them how to make cigars, and I'm going to take the best roller. I'm going to make that woman, the supervisor. And Dad, my brother's Eric, Dad he did all the hiring until he was like 85 years old of the cigar rollers in our factory in Tampa. I mean, go figure. And but Dad used to have some great sayings. And some of them are from his father, J.C. Newman. And I just want to share a couple with you that were not in the book. My father used to talk about how J.C. would say the story of the man who cried and cried because he had no shoes until he saw the man who had no feet. And you think about that. And my father used to say that because everyone in our industry often copies each other. Our partners that make all of our Dominican cigars, my brother Carlito Fuente, everyone's knocked off the short story. The Fuentes, they're the first ones to put ribbon on the bottom of the foot of the cigar. Many people have done that. And my father used to say, if you copy another manufacturer, you do not deserve to be successful. And usually you're not, and which had to be true. But in Jimmy, if you liked JC's book, Grandpa JC, you'll love Dad's book, because my father, one of his key things was you got to take care of your employees, you got to take care of your customers, you take care of your suppliers. No one ever talks about the suppliers, because he talks about in Dad's book, which is you can see on Cigar called Cigar Family. It's on jcnewman.com. Everyone, it's something that every undergraduate business major should read, because it's got a lot of good basic things. And the way we were able to survive, we're now this is 126 years by being innovative. And again, if you copy someone else, that's a cop out.
Very good. All right, so we're going to do right now. I'm going to take a quick sponsor break to shout out to my sponsors who sponsor this show, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the new J.C. Newman, the 21st century, what's been going on. So think about some of that, and we'll just give some shout outs right here. So today's show is brought to you by La Jolla del Chan. La Jolla del Chan is a young, new Puerto Rican cigar company whose mission is to feature the Puerto Rican native tobacco in blends that come from different countries around the world. La Jolla del Chan is a family-owned operation, and you can find them at www.lajolladelchan.com. Only thing I'll say on that is when you go there, a lot of it's in Spanish, so you have to know a little Spanish to navigate, but you'll check it out. But I have had some of their cigars. We'll talk about one later today when I go through the news and reviews. But check out La Jolla del Chan. Today's show is also brought to you by Frontline Cigars, and Frontline Cigars is always on the front line of flavor, innovation, and giving back to those who serve. As a first responder-owned company in the Chicagoland area, Frontline Cigars strives to give back to those that serve, whether it be first responders or military, through numerous charitable foundations. At frontlinecigars.com, you can always find a wide range of cigars from boutique to everyday brands, in addition to a fine selection of cigar accessories and swag. You can follow Frontline Cigars on Instagram and Facebook, and you can check out their website at www.frontlinecigars.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Tarazona Cigars. Tarazona Cigars, owned by Eddie Tarazona, has been around for quite a while in this industry, is well respected, and Tarazona Cigars is where they do it with passion. That's just not a phrase. Everything that Eddie does, he does with passion. Tarazona premium handmade long leaf cigars are each rolled to the highest quality by masterful rolls. Each hand that touches the process takes pride in the quality and craftsmanship of every cigar that goes into every box of Tarazona cigars. The next time you're looking for a fine smoke, do it with passion and reach for Tarazona. You can follow Tarazona Cigars on Facebook and Instagram and visit them at www.tarazonacigars.com. I'd like to thank my sponsors for the show. Without you, this is always a little bit harder. And I also like to thank J.C. Newman for your sponsorship this year of StogiePress.com.
We are honored. Thank you. Thank you. Jimmie, it's nice to see this. My two children want to come in our cigar business, and I told them, if you want to come in, go work for somebody else for 2 years, and then bring something to the table. So my older son went to work when he got out, he went to Elon University in Greensboro, North Carolina. He went to work when he got out. He went to work for the the local Budweiser distributor, Adams Beverage in Charlotte, and he had an entry-level position. His job was to set up Budweiser and there are other brand displays like Publix and Food Lion and Walmart, and I spent time working with him. He worked himself up to become a salesman, and then he went to work for Tinderbox, Craig Cass's Tinderbox in Charlotte. Then he went to work for. He came home to Tampa. He went to work for Jeff Borshowitz, whom you know from Corona Cigar. Got great training, and so it's we're a fourth generation. It's 126 year, and we want everyone to bring something to the table. If you want to come in the business, it's there, but bring something to the table. And which I know you talk about the future of our 21st century in 2021 with Eric. There's only two Newmans, my brother and me. We at one time there were 14 of us, and we had a leverage to buy out in 1986. My father, brother, and I bought all 14 relatives, and so it's my brother and me. And now and we're a third generation. We have Eric's son Drew, who is an attorney, but he's an only child, great young man, 39 years old. But what's so special about him, when he was 13 years old, early 90s, he came to me and he came to his father. He said, "Uncle Bobby and Dad, we need to come up with a website." And I remember I said, "That's a great idea. What's a website?" And he started the first cigar website in the history of the world called Cigar Family, cigarfamily.com. And it became the largest chat room of all cigar smokers from around the world. And it was amazing, to the point where these guys and gals wanted to meet each other. So we started having like little mini conventions once a year in Tampa. And then lo and behold, Carlito Fuente, my brother Carlito, my brother Eric Newman, they were down in the Dominican back in 2001. Okay, we've been with the Fuentes. They've been making our cigars, our Dominican cigars, since 1986. We've been selling their cigars, so that's 35 years. So they're Eric and Carlito. God, this is, let me see, I do my right math. 2001. So what is that? 20 years ago. They were driving around Chateau de la Fuente in the middle of the Dominican Republic, and they saw these children playing in the stream at 11 o'clock in the morning with distended bellies. They should have been in school. And the reason they had distended bellies, they had parasites. The water was bad. The school looked like Little House on the Prairie. One room, they put all from first grade to sixth graders, they all crammed them in there. There was a light bulb hanging down there. They learned absolutely nothing. So Carlito and Eric said, well, let's just build our own school. And we're all transparent. This is a public forum, Jimmie. I realize that. So I'm telling you that we've raised just under $25 million. And it's all gone down to the school. There's 460 plus kids from kindergarten to 12th graders. We were able to put a medical clinic in there. No one had ever seen a toothbrush until we got there. We now have dentists. We have a full-time doctor who happens to be he was a second grader that started there. Nelson is now the physician there. And today solar wind power is very sexy. Well, there's no electricity there, so we put we were the first people, or one of the first people in Dominican to put solar panels on the property, solar panels in the country. We needed enough power to give us electricity to power the light bulbs and the donated computers. And it's been an incredible ride. So it's the only nonprofit I ever heard of. If you give $1 to Cigar Family Charitable Foundation, all 100 cents goes to the mission, because our family, the Newman family and the Fuente family, paid the administrative cost, which is accounting, attorneys, and marketing. And it's The Cigar Aficionado gave us a lot of money. We built a state-of-the-art baseball field. And as you know, if you're, I keep looking at the great Boston Red Sox. As you know that maybe 20, I think it's 22 or 23% of all the Major League Baseball players are from the Dominican Republic.
Right.
So baseball and Catholicism is neck and neck. And
pastime just as it is us.
yeah, so we've had to quote my brother Carlito, build it and they will come. And we've had our friends from Outback Steakhouse. I live in Tampa. They gave us a nice grant. We built a kitchen from it. So these kids get these 462 plus children they get 2 meals a day, and they get uniforms. They're getting a world-class education. And I was talking to Carlito this week. We have to have a quarterly board meeting for Cigar Family Charitable Foundation in order to keep our 501(c)(3) status. And I don't like to quote Carlito, but he said this is his greatest legacy, and my brother as well, to change these people, because colleges in most third world countries or developing countries are free. The reason more kids can't afford to go to the colleges because they can't afford the books or the transportation. So we help them with that as well. So it's been, like I say, it's been an incredible ride. We brought down Rotary. My brother and I are Rotarians, and Rotary has given us 3 nice grants. We've been able to drill deep water wells because the water was all bad there. And we've been able to buy thousands of water filters to give to these people. Most American cigar smokers anyway, have been to third world country, been out to either Mexico or been to countries that are not either developing countries or a country like Mexico, where you go out in the country, it's very, very poor. And the people where we operate, it's in the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation. It's next to Chateau de la Fuente. It's right in the middle of the Dominican Republic. It's between Santiago and Santo Domingo, the capital. Yeah. Very, very, very poor. And I've never been to Africa, but the people they're so poor they can't afford outhouses. And you see these women, they're sweeping the floor, and the floors are dirt. And they have so much pride, and they're such happy people. And we felt an obligation to give back to them. They helped the Fuente family, they helped the Newman family. And so it's our turn. And that's what's great about Americans. We're all from someplace else. We're a land of people from I hate the word, immigrants. Maybe that's the wrong word.
That's right. We're all immigrants.
Yeah.
My
Jimmie,
family came here on they were the first French Huguenots to land in America in the 1600s.
Wow, there you go.
Escape persecution. So
right, exactly.
And we should never forget that, and remember to take care of people, and that's what we do. And the cigar community, we do that in ACES, whether it be helping those that are in the business and in the industry in these island nations, or even amongst ourselves. We help each other when there's people are down and out having a problem.
Right.
He's there to talk, lend an ear. It's amazing. I have some questions that came in.
Yes, sir.
A few questions. Brian Bowe been hanging around asking this question. He wants to know how the Diamond Crown Maximus came about.
Great question. God, Jimmie. In 1990, Dad was 75 years old, and he said, before I die, before my 80th birthday, and Dad lived to be over 90, he said, I want to come out with the best cigar that's ever been made. Arturo Fuente's going to make it. We're going to use Connecticut shade wrapper, and we're going to double ferment the wrapper. And no one has ever done that before. And we're going to use all 50, it's going to be a line of 54 ring gauge. And there's never been the largest cigar molds that were made in Honduras, Nicaragua. Actually, there wasn't much of a business in Nicaragua, not much of an industry, but in Honduras, the largest cigar mold was 52. That's it. We're going to make, it's going to be all line of all 54 ring gauge cigars. And I said, well, and Eric and I were saying, well, Dad, what if someone wants a smaller cigar? He said, I don't care. Let them smoke somebody else's. It's going to be the best cigar. He said, I don't care if it sells. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what we retail it for, but I'm going to do this before I die. And I said, okay, Dad. So Dad got with Carlito and Carlos Fuente Sr., and they could develop the blend. And in for his 80th birthday, and we launched it at the Grand Havana Room in Beverly Hills, California. We launched Fuente Opus X in Boston, and coincidentally, and we took the Fuente Opus X. We went west, and we took Diamond Crown. We went east. So again, this was 1995, 1996. But by the year 2000, America's taste for food and cigars had gotten heavier. So Dad said, he's the one that thought of the word Maximus. We're gonna have Maximus flavor, maximum pleasure. So it was an Ecuadorian wrapper tobacco grown by the not Oliva cigar, but the Tampa Oliva Tobacco Company, and from the Abajo region. Very, very, it was so heavy, it had to be aged for at least 5 years, otherwise it'd blow your head off. And so we came out with the Diamond Crown Maximus, and that's the reason why people wanted heavier beer, heavier whiskeys, heavier food, and so that's how we developed it.
So another question that came in, I believe from Jeff Walsh, asked, how did the name Brick House come about?
I'm so glad, Jeff. Thank you for answering that question. I just happen to have a Brick House Double Connecticut. If you buy a box of Brick House, or if you go into a smoke shop and you see the box, the open box, there's a picture of a red brick home. That was Grandpa JC's boyhood home in Eastern Hungary. And he lived with his 4 brothers and 2 sisters upstairs. It was a tavern downstairs. And they had whiskeys and beers and smoking. And when he left, Grandpa JC left, he loved Hungary. Obviously, he was 13 when he left. He didn't know about the political problems. His family couldn't own land and so forth, and all the 13-year-olds were going into the army. But he felt so strong about his heritage. One of the first brands he made that he started was called Brick House. And he took it off the market in 1937, and unfortunately, we do not know why. We brought it back about 15 years ago, and it's made in our factory in Pensa, which stands for Puros de Esteli Incorporated. Every factory in Nicaragua has a name, and we started out with the Brick House. It was an Ecuadorian wrapper, and then we came out with a Maduro called the Mighty Maduro, and it's the number one 6x60. It's number one selling 6x60 Maduro in Canada, in the United States, Canada, and Germany, and Israel. We export to 81 countries, and and we're very active. We have a bonded warehouse over in Europe as well. But and then we're very proud of this is because this is the Brick House Double Connecticut. It's real Connecticut shade wrapper. And if you peel the wrapper off, it's got Connecticut broadleaf, which is a wonderful tasting tobacco. This is it's funny because when we brought out Diamond Crown in the mid 90s, the Connecticut shade was very popular. Then it kind of fell out of the people wanted a heavier wrapper. Connecticut shade is now back in favor. Actually, most people use Connecticut seed grown in Ecuador.
Right.
Versus real Connecticut shade is very, very expensive tobacco. And we use Connecticut seed grown in Ecuador on a brand called Perla del Mar. And that cigar that you're smoking is Corojo wrapper from Ecuador. And anyway, so that's the story of Brick House. And got a 93 rating. It's got incredible ratings. So we've all been blessed.
Now, as you move into this past year, so we went through this pandemic,
Right.
but you were still cranking out craft. and you have some new blends, new or adjusted blends and new names of
Right.
cigars that you've come out with. Can you go through the newest cigars in your portfolio?
Well, the newest, and we spent a year with this, is the Pearl de Mar was a cigar we brought out. It means pearl of the sea. It's at the when it was a very hard square box pressed. I loved it. Some of our marketing team and some of the salesmen said, we should go back to a soft Tampa press, as we call a press that's not as rough edges, and um, and so and some I love the cigar band. I love the label of the boxes, but I got outvoted, and so we had our marketing team. We have two graphics designers. They redid you can look at the PDM. They redid the whole package, and it's the same cigar, same blend. We had it was before we made the change. We had two types of wrapper. We had the Maduro Connecticut broadleaf for the Maduro, and for the classic line is Connecticut seed grown Ecuador. And they said, what? And we knew that we never used Corojo. Here we are, 126 years old. A lot of people have used Corojo, very popular wrapper. So we said, let's come out with a Corojo version of it. And what you're smoking now, and it just hit the market in the last, I don't know, 60, 90 days. It got that great rating, and it's made a lot of noise. We came out with a cigar. Jimmie, did you ever smoke the Yagua, the cigar called Yagua?
Yes, I did. I reviewed.
And it was the idea. The gentleman, we have the two managers, the gentlemen that run the Pensa factory, and our factory in Esteli, Nicaragua. One of his name is Lazaro Lopez. He's from Cuba, and he remembers his grandfather used to roll cigars, and they would put the cigars in a Yagua. Well, what the hell is a Yagua? No one ever heard of it. And he had explained this story like 5 times to understand it. So what you do, his father was a cigar maker in Cuba. He'd make the cigars like on a Saturday or Sunday when they weren't working. This was before Castro, and they would put the cigars in a Yagua. Yagua is basically the palm frond that you can see they're green. They fall on the ground, and most people just throw them away or they burn them. And so you put two together, and you put very strong twine or rope around it, and it forms a cigar. And believe it or not, there's a lot of moisture there. It'll keep them fresh. And so we did this. I didn't think much of the project. We said, well, we'll make 1,000 boxes, and if we made 1,100 boxes, and we can use Connecticut broadleaf, and it was like we allocated among our 18 salesmen, and it was wrapped. We wrapped the cigar in 2 Yaguas. This palm frond looking, and a special box. No one had, and it's hard to do something in our industry very creative that no one's ever done before, obviously, and because there are a lot of great cigars out, and so we launched it, and it took off, and like we allocated maybe 2 or 3 boxes, maybe per tobacconist. Of course, everyone wanted more, and there are none. So they're aging right now, and we'll have hopefully 2,000 boxes this year available. But we have,
thing about that cigar is every cigar is like shaped differently. It's just, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and you look at it and think, God, this thing, and it looks like it's going to blow your head off, and it is Jimmie, we have a couple boxes left. When you come, we'll smoke some cigars together. We'll smoke some Yagua together in Tampa.
There you go.
And the biggest news though was Eric and I are 3rd generation. Drew and my children are 4th generation, and they wanted to, as you get older. I'm only 39 years old. Jimmie and I are the same age. But as you get older, you get more fiscal conservative. And we've been up and down like everybody on the call. Everyone has. And so Drew said, let's open our factory to the public, and we'll put we'll start making cigars by hand. We have a big area, storage area. We can turn it into a hand cigar making factory on the third floor of our factory. And Eric, my brother, said, Drew, if you want to spend your inheritance, go ahead. And we just completed a massive restoration / renovation of the factory. The factory that we bought, our factory, El Reloj, which stands for the clock, and very famous in Tampa because all the people around in the cigar making area, there are 10 large factories. As I said earlier, the people that worked in the factories, they would go to sleep and they would go and be woken up by the bell. And every hour it rings. It's the only weight-powered clock in the state of Florida. You have to wind it every day by hand. And so in 1910, when the factory was built, the first brand they made was called the American. And so Drew Newman, Eric's son, said, look, let's start making the American. That'll be our first brand. And we're going to use American labor. And it's going to be made with 100% American-grown tobacco. The wrapper will be Jeff Borschowitz's wrapper from Florida Sun Grown that he grows in Claremont, Florida, 20 miles north of Disney World. The binder will be Connecticut broadleaf. And we had trouble finding long filler tobacco. We had the Amish grow tobacco for us, long filler, but it was too thick. It wouldn't burn right. So we switched to the Mennonites. And the great irony is, as everyone on this call knows, the Amish and the Mennonites, they do not use electricity. They're horse and buggy. They don't have TVs, but they love tobacco. They love cigar tobacco because it brings in more dollars per acre than any other product that they can grow. And so we started using the Amish. So we did this restoration. We're going to open the public. We now have a 3-story, the front third of the factory, 3 stories. It's a working cigar museum. There's an interactive movie theater in there, and you can it's really beautiful. You can see stories of how we got together with the Fuentes. You can hear my grandfather speak, J.C. Newman. We found an old audio of him, story of the Tampa cigar industry from 1886, and it's a fun thing. So we're giving tours. It's open 4 days a week for tours, and at the end of this year, we're going to start having cigar making classes. So instead of having to go to Nicaragua or Honduras and getting a passport, you can come to Tampa. You don't need a passport, and we'll teach you how to make cigars. And you can, by the way, you can pick your own blend. It won't be that sophisticated. It'll be like a mild, medium, or blow your head off type of thing, heavy blend. But so the American, we have 3 rollers. 2 of the rollers make Americans every day. They're only allowed to make 100 cigars a day. The box it sits in is made in the United States. The cellophane, the cigar band, the ink, the cigar labels are all made in America. And this was Drew's idea. This was before President Trump came, make America great again. He's been talking about this for 5 years. And so it's been a reality. And we have the aging room is in the basement. Carlito Fuente, he made all the cigar tables for us. And we've got, we're making some other cigars. I don't want to mention because it's not public yet. But it's really interesting. In fact, Tim, we all work too much. I was at the office today for this afternoon, and we have our first wedding. In fact, at 7:00 we had our first wedding. So we've got like over 12 weddings, which is amazing because of this COVID situation. But we have 12 weddings planned between now and the end of the year. So people can rent where the hospitality areas, where all of our 149, I hate the word employee, I won't call them teammates, but all of our people that work in the factory, in the office. They,
The grandfather called them associates.
yes, yes. And I think employee is a demeaning word. And well, I want to call them brothers and sisters, but maybe that's not good, but that's why I call them teammates. But so we've got people doing corporate retreats there now. It's one of the few places, Jimmie, you can smoke in America indoors. You have your favorite beverage. You can eat what you want to, but finding a place to smoke cigars, unless you're a cigar shop or cigar bars, is very difficult, as we know.
One of the other cigars that you were making a splash last month with was the Quorum.
Right, right. The Quorum was my brother and I were, this was, gosh, back at around 2004. My father was actually, he was having prostate surgery, so because he was always with us. And so Eric and I were in my office about 7 o'clock at night, and we wanted to come out with a great value cigar, handmade, 100% handmade, 100% all tobacco, obviously. And I said, Eric, what are we going to call it? And he said, I know, gentlemen, we have a quorum. I said, what did you say? He said, we have a quorum, because my brother and I are in different boards, nonprofit boards. And when you have a quorum, means that you have a majority of the board of directors, so you can have a meeting legally, but out of federal standards. And so that's where the name came from. And it's the cigar. We brought out, they're only in bundles. The first line, it's a Sumatra wrapper. And we came out with a Maduro wrapper. We came out with a Connecticut seed grown in Ecuador. And last year we sold around 17 million cigars. That's a lot of cigars. And another 5 million or 6 million Brick House and Perla, and House Handmaids as well. So the quorum, we've had a lot of fun with it. It's statistically, one out of every 7 handmade cigars out of Nicaragua is a quorum. And we export to 81 countries. And you could not we started exporting in 1994. And England was our first place we went to, first country. And you could not give away a bundle cigar. And my father was Stanford, a real innovator, because we got together in 1986 with the Fuente family. The first brand that Fuentes made for us was called La Unica. So it was a brand that the grandfather had. And again, all the bundles sold in the United States, they're all seconds. They would be green or green spots, or they're patched. And Dad said, we're going to call it La Unica Dominican Primeros, I mean Dominican first. It's in other words, it's made, should be in a box, and we marketed the heck out of it, saying that look, that because it's in a bundle, it means it's a bad cigar. We don't charge extra for the cigar because it's not in a box. We just pass the savings on to you. And it was Carlos Fuentes Sr. He picked the first 4 sizes. And he said, we're going to do it at Connecticut shade, 8.5 by 52, and 7 by 50, 6 3/4 by 44, and a Robusto 4 3/4 by 50. Thing took off. Within 6 months, it was the #1 selling bundle cigar in America. And then we had the Maduro line with the Connecticut broadleaf, and we've been very blessed. Listen, Jim, like I said, every American, every human being has been up and down, and we've been very blessed. We were able to catch lightning in the bottle with that, and Quorum, and Brick House, and Diamond Crown, and so it leads. That's why we felt such an obligation to help the people of the Dominican Republic. Listen, we just sent about 18 months ago. We sent down 10,000 toothbrushes and distributed them to the 5,000 people that live in the Cigar family complex, Cigar family where the school is. and where it's 22 acres where the school is, and where there's a organic farm there. There's the medical clinic, which is very, very busy, and the baseball field. We're building a tech school now. My brother Carlito, things happen for God talks to all of us many different ways. I'm wearing, this is my watch. It's a Casio watch. They're about $12 a piece, and I buy them 3 at a time on Amazon. But a company called Hublot, everyone's heard of Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and so the company Louis Vuitton got a hold of Carlito about 8 years ago and said, "Look, we have a watch company called Hublot. I never heard of it. These watches sell for $30, $40, $50,000. And Jimmie, I don't know your wife, but I know if my wife bought one, I'd kill her. I'd make her return. No one needs a watch." But anyway, Hublot said, "We want to come out with a limited line of watches." Excuse me. And we're going to call it be a limited line. And we'll, if you agree to it, Mr. Fuente, we'll give you a royalty. And Carlito thought about it. He said, "I'll do it, but I want all the money. I want all the royalty to go to the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation. And I want to build a tech school and like a junior college." And we're sitting on many hundreds of thousands of dollars because of that. We built the school, and we want to teach these kids. Before COVID, Dominican Republic was very, people were coming down all the time. Casa de Campo, Puerto Plata, which is north of Santiago, Punta Cana, and people will come back after COVID, but is over. But so hospitality, we want to teach people how to program computers, how to code, and and hospitality. Carlito is going to build have a Academy of the Arts for music, because Carlito he was a musician all through his youth. So and we've been able to leverage our success by paying it forward. And I'll tell you another thing too, Jim. I noticed on your ads that advertising, one of the companies that advertises with you, I think they give 10% to the first responders and so forth. So we were back in 2004, the first American, and I live in Tampa. Tampa is, I live about 10 minutes from MacDill Air Force Base, which MacDill, it's a tiny Air Force Base, but it's headquarters for United States Special Operations. That's the headquarters for the Green Beret, Navy SEALs, AFSOC, which is Air Force Special Operations, MARSOC, Delta Force, which we're not supposed to talk about. And and it's also CENTCOM, Central Command is there. So the first American serviceman to lose both eyes in the global war on terror was one of our cigar smoking customers, whom I did not know. In August of 2004, I got a call from Central Cigar out of St. Petersburg telling us that one of our customers, he smoked Diamond Crown and Arturo Fuente, he was severely injured at a roadside bomb. And I said, "Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know what else to say." He was from St. Petersburg. The next weekend, the article, the entire St. Petersburg front page was about this fellow named Michael Jernigan, 25-year-old Marine. He was riding in a Humvee, and they rolled over 2 captured 155 millimeter howitzer shells, killed the driver, and Michael Jernigan, corporal in the Marine, took his whole forehead off. If this had been Vietnam, he would have died, but so he took his eyes out. He lived, came back to Tampa. I called his mother, and we got him a guide dog at Southeast Guide Dogs. I have a lifetime board membership to the only guide dog school called Southeastern Guide Dogs. It's the only guide dog school in the Southeast United States. And he and I, 2 years later, we started a program called Polish for Patriots. And we provide the entire United States military, the veterans, male, female, any age, doesn't matter. If you need a service dog or a guide dog, a service dog, a emotional support dog, if you need a Gold Star dog. Gold Star families are, like, what that is. Those are, that we cover all 50 states. It takes 2 years, about $70,000 to train each dog. And so when you come down to Tampa, I'll take you over there. We'll blindfold you and whomever you bring, and we'll have a dog take you around. It's a strange feeling when you can't see anything. But it's been so rewarding. We met with Secretary Rumsfeld, and who heard about the program when he was still Secretary of Defense. And he's given the school this is public information. He's given us over $1 million. He has his own foundations. So we've been able to pay it forward. And I think most Americans, they're the most generous people in the history of the world. Number one are Americans, but number two, even are cigar smokers. Because we sell shops, and you've been in a zillion shops, Jimmie. They're always raising money either for first responders, a policeman that was killed, or God forbid, a line of duty, or a fireman, or we've lost way too many American soldiers. And they're always doing something for somebody. That's what we do, exactly. And that's what I think the good Lord loves the cigar industry.
I would say so.
I never.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be one of my questions. So I'm so happy you brought up the dogs and vets. At this moment, I'm going to take another quick little break off where I talk about what's new in news and reviews in Stogie Press. Just keep everybody up to date. It was kind of a light week. I've had some my own personal issues going on, but that's a whole nother story. Those that know. But there was really no news that I was breaking this week. But when it comes to reviews, we did do 2 reviews. The first review was on the Crown Heads, their 4 Kicks Copper Special Sublime. This one came in at a 93. It's a very nice cigar. This is giving me some really nice notes of cinnamon and coffee and cream. It was very, very complex, really nice smoke. Those that know about 4 Kicks, where they got it from the song from Kings of Leon and how that all came to be. Nice looking cigar. The points that came off on this one was really not much. Basically, we took off, it had a little bit of a wavy burn, an off-centered burn cone, but it was very complex and balanced, so it scored up at a 93. The second review we did, going back to one of my sponsors here, is El Chan. This one was actually this surprised me, this cigar. I wasn't expecting this cigar to be at the level it was at. Now, this one is called their Grand Toro, the Big Rubio. This is a 60 ring gauge cigar. They're $10 a piece. And what I liked about this cigar was the flavor that I was getting out of this cigar from, you expect Connecticut. It's a mild cigar, but it started off with like this fruity jam. It was just like, wow, where does this come from? And then it had this nice lemongrass that developed that kind of stayed with it throughout with nuances of nut and pepper and toasted bread and sweetness. This was a really, really nice cigar, a perfect cigar for in the morning if you sit back with a nice cup of coffee, or I'd even say a cup of tea would go very well with this, with that lemongrass in it. This cigar had a really nice burn on it. Got a really nice ash cone, burned beautifully. So reality here is it was mild. It had a mild jagged burn. It burned a little hot in the final. I only had one of them. It's a big ring gauge cigar, and sometimes I smoke them a little faster than I probably should when they're that big, because I don't want them to go out on me. But other than that, this was an absolutely fine cigar. Very surprising. It does have, like I said, that it's got a Puerto Rican filler in it. So it's got Nicaraguan and Puerto Rican fillers. So they're really trying to highlight this Puerto Rican tobacco that they grow over there. They're really trying to help out the Puerto Rican nation, which has been ravished. It's in a terrible recession. So they're doing everything they can to kind of build in their own way their economy and helping their people. So those are the news and reviews on Stogie Press this week. So we're coming up near the end of the show here. You've been a gracious host. You kind of took over, which is good. I don't have to ask too many questions.
Oh my God! I hope my wife says she does this all the time. Yeah.
It's okay. But I am going to go give you. I'm going to go through my. We do a fast lightning round. So these are just fast questions. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So the first question: your favorite movie of all time?
Saving Private Ryan.
I can understand. Very good.
It's one of these.
Absolutely. Your favorite vacation spot?
Wow, these are. God, Jimmie, you didn't tell me this. Anywhere in the mountains.
I like hiking. I like mountains.
I like the weather. Yeah.
Old Boy Scout. Love it.
Right. Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
And the last question everybody gets, if you watch the show, you know what's coming. If you haven't watched the show, you don't know what's coming. For those that know. No context involved in this. All right. So very simple. It's a simple answer. Skirts or pantsuits?
Skirts.
Okay. There you go.
I got married at 40 years old, Jimmie. It's the first time and last time. I'm still married to a great woman.
I love it. And that's the way life could be. It should be like that for all.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
I really want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day. I know you're very busy. You do enjoy talking to your people, and we like listening to you. You've had a lot to tell. There's a lot more to tell, I'm sure. We can go on for hours and hours. And
yes, we could. Yeah.
We'll break some bread and go through all of that. I appreciate the sponsorship. I appreciate all the viewers that are chiming in. And folks, next week, I have some more of these Pella de Mars, and I've got some Diamond Crowns. And on the Wheel of Wonderfulness next Saturday, get out there, like, share, love this, and get out there and subscribe to the Stogie Press YouTube channel and continue to watch these videos as they get posted. And Bobby, a great time.
Listen, can I have 15 more seconds?
Absolutely.
I just want to tell you, Jimmie, thank you. First of all, thank you for allowing us to come in your living room, your studio. But more importantly, thank you for the service. This is a great service that you do for the industry, because it seems like this COVID thing, there are other cigar blogs like this as well. It's just including more people. Obviously, people are staying during the COVID. People stayed home and they smoked a lot of cigars, obviously, and they drank a lot of, because the alcohol industry has been seeing record years, as you know. But thank you for doing this, Jimmie, as well. I think I speak for the entire industry, if I may.
I appreciate that. And you're right about the alcohol. And I'll tell you what, I haven't had a drop in 16 days.
Well, I hope you feel better.
I do. My knees feel better, believe it, because you get a little dehydrated if you drink too much. And
exactly.
At our age, it's not a good thing.
Jimmie, we're 39 years old, for God's sake.
That's it. 39. That's it. Forever 39. I liked 40. 40 was good for me.